Hey kids, welcome back to another story time with Nick. It's great to see all of you wonderful children again, all your wonderful faces. I've got a couple more stories to share this week, so I'll be putting a couple more out. Let's go ahead and get started with today's story. Before we do that, let's go over our things that never change. Number one, I like you just the way you are. Number two, I'm happy you're here today. I'm happy you're watching stories and learning and doing the best that you can today. And number three are my expectations. And as always, I expect great things from all of you. I know you can and will do wonderful things in your life. All right. So I started to think, what stories do I want to share this week? And I realized as we've been going in the quarantine a bit longer, a lot of people are getting fed up with their family. And so I was thinking about our theme of the month, which during the month of May is perseverance. And I was thinking about being fed up with our family. And so I decided to go with this book, Leave Me Alone, which I like a lot. This grumpy old grandma just wants to get her work done, but everyone keeps interfering with it. Might be a feeling you've been having these last couple weeks as well, when you're like, just want to get some stuff done, but everyone in my house seems to be interfering with it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Leave Me Alone by Vera, Brosgol. Once there was an old woman. She lived in a small village, in a small house. With a very big family. Winter was coming. That meant she had some very important knitting to do. But it wasn't getting done. Her grandchildren were very curious about her knitting. Were you supposed to hit the ball with a stick? Could you eat it? Could you make your brother eat it? Why did the ball get smaller and smaller as you chased it? I don't know about you guys, but for me, that was a big thing with my older brothers. As the youngest one, they always would do all the experiments with me. I wonder if this hurts. We'll have Nick try it out. The old woman was at the end of her rope. So she made her bed as neatly as she could. She swept the floorboards until they more or less shone. She drank tea from her samovar. She packed up her things in a big sack. And as she left, she shouted back, "Leave me alone!" The old woman walked through the deep, dark forest. She made a fire so that she could see what she was doing. Then she sat down and began to knit. The bear family was very curious about the light from her fire and about what she might taste like. "Leave me alone!" the old woman shouted. But they didn't listen, because bears don't speak English. So she picked up her sack and left. The old woman climbed up the mountainside. It was cold, so she found a small sheltered space. Then she sat down and began to knit. The mountain goats were excited to have a visitor, especially one that brought delicious snacks. "Leave me alone!" the old woman shouted. But the goats were too busy fighting over the red ones, which they all agreed were the best. So she picked up her sack and left. The old woman climbed higher and higher up the mountain. She reached the top and climbed onto the moon. She found a rock that was shaped like a chair. She sat down and began to knit. The little green moon men had never seen a woman before, old or otherwise. They examined her with handheld scanners that went beep boop. Leave me alone, the old woman shouted. But the little green moon men couldn't hear her because they didn't have any ears. So she picked up her sack and left through a wormhole. The void on the other side of the wormhole was very dark and very, very quiet. She was absolutely, completely, utterly alone. It was perfect. Soon, she had no more yarn and 30 little sweaters. And she was alone. So she put the 30 sweaters into her big sack. She swept the void until it was a nice matte black. She had a cup of tea from her samovar. Then she picked up the sack and left through another wormhole. When she came out the other side, everything was right where she'd left it. And she didn't say a word. I hope you enjoyed that story. It reminds me that even though sometimes we get kind of annoyed by the people in our house, it's nice to be around other people, even if we're under quarantine with them. All right. Until next time.